A global survey by accountancy firm Ernst Young has found strong support for changes to international financial reporting standards. Accountancy Ireland asked Fergus Condon about the findings.
You've had a seminar with 1,000 participants talking about IFRS. Can you tell us a bit about who those participants were and why there appears to be so much support for IFRS?
Certainly. So the purpose of the webcast was to talk about the future of UK and Irish GAAP and where the ASB's proposals are going. In terms of the number of participants, so there were over 1,000 of that community. About 200 were from the Irish corporate community. And these proposals apply to every company that is registered in Ireland and the UK. But I guess the reason why we had so many participants outside of Ireland in particular is the amount of foreign direct investment that we have here. So not only is it going to impact Irish and UK companies that are registered here, but to the extent that they are owned by overseas parents somewhere else, then it will have an impact on the group, and that's why the group in particular were interested in it, and hence we got such a large attendance, which was fantastic.
And they're supportive of IFRS.
Yeah, that's right. Of the participants on the day, when we took some polling questions, about 51% were supportive of a move towards something based on IFRS, or at least away from current UK and Irish GAAP at the moment, with another 33% on top of that also supportive of it, so long as it was post-2014. They felt now wasn't necessarily the right time. And indeed, since that, at another seminar, we've taken another poll, and that number has gone slightly higher again. And broadly speaking, about 90% or more of participants are in favour of the change at some point in time, again, depending on when it might be implemented.
I suppose all processes of change affecting standards like that involve costs, so there must be some concerns about conversion costs.
Yeah, I think there are certainly concerns about conversion costs, and one of the things that's probably worth just reminding ourselves of is why would those people be interested in the change, the 90% plus. So about 2004, the ASB decided that they would harmonise UK and Irish GAAP with IFRS, and that has happened between the period 2004 to 2009. And while that was a very good starting principle, it has become quite cumbersome because certain aspects of IFRS are brought into Irish GAAP and others are not. So many preparers, I think, have found it cumbersome to deal with, and it's prone to error. So I think everybody is happy to move away, but yet people are worried about the cost. The ASB did some field work which suggested that the average cost for a company would be about £2,000 or €2,500, and that seems incredibly low. And I think it's probably the law of averages hiding the actual real number. It would be significantly higher for most companies, I think, and therefore I think that's one of the reasons why companies are supportive of the change, but perhaps not right now. Most companies need to spend their resources in other areas and more kind of critical areas than this at the moment, and hence I think the reason why people are concerned about the timing and also the cost factor attached to it.
In the piece that you wrote about this for Accountancy Ireland, you also flagged up potential tax implications. Could you just say a word about that?
Certainly. I think that the thing to remember, and one of the reasons why we're keen to spread the message and have people thinking about this, albeit it might be 18 or 24 months in advance of a mandatory adoption date, is that it's not just around technical accounting, and there are wider business impacts to the process as well. And one of them that you've picked on is a tax aspect. And tax follows accounting in many respects. More often than not, the starting position for calculating your tax is your profit before tax number. It's based off accounting principles, and therefore if there's likely to be a change to the profit before tax, there may well be a corresponding change to the tax number itself. And that kind of falls into two categories. There will be the impact on the tax processes and how you calculate the tax number that goes into the financial statements. But working with a couple of companies, we found that there actually can be a real cash tax difference also. And for example, in respect of operating lease incentives, or in respect of changes to functional currency, that can mean a difference to how you pay your tax, or indeed when you pay your tax. And for some, that's to your advantage. The likelihood is that the overall total amount of tax that you would pay will stay the same, but oftentimes, depending on when you change and how the change impacts you, you may well find that some of the tax that you will pay might be pushed out into a period further down the track, and therefore you get a working capital advantage from the fact that you pay less tax now. And that can be a very substantial number depending on the size of your business. So very important to consider the tax aspects when considering the overall impact on the business.
So there's a lot really for people to think about as they start to plan for conversion, if that's what they intend to do. What would you recommend as the next steps for people watching this? I
think the next steps are to get an understanding of the proposals and where your company might fit into it. So at present, there are probably 5 potential options of how you would prepare your financial statements under this new proposal. Deciding which one of those to fall into will be based on a number of factors, whether you're an individual business, whether you're reporting up the chain into a group that prepares IFRS financial statements, and the size of your business. So I think there is a strategic decision to be made in terms of what option you're going to fall into. I think that's the first thing to consider. I think then one has to go on and do a gap analysis to determine what exactly are the differences, and it's only when you get into that layer of detail that you fully understand the context and the complexity of the process, and indeed the amount of resources that will need to be allocated towards it when it's time to convert across.
Okay. Well, there's a lot more information. A good starting point for anybody would be your article in the December issue of Accountancy Ireland.
Great.
You can read more about the Ernst Young Global Survey in your December issue of Accountancy Ireland.